Elon Musk says he found proof of the afterlife. The room was silent, the cameras were rolling, and Elon Musk leaned forward toward the microphone with that familiar half-smile that made people wonder if he was joking, or if he was about to reveal something that would change the very fabric of human existence. He cleared his throat and spoke slowly, carefully, as if weighing each word against eternity itself. There's something I need to share with the world. It's going to sound unbelievable. But I've seen it. I've found proof that consciousness continues after death. Proof of the afterlife. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Journalists who had prepared their questions about Tesla updates, Mars colonization, and AI ethics froze with wide eyes. This wasn't just another Musk headline. This was the kind of statement that could alter religion, science, and philosophy all at once. The cameras zoomed in, the lights grew hotter, and somewhere in the silence, 1,000 years of human curiosity cracked open like a door to another dimension. And that is where our story begins. Because behind that statement was not just a theory, not just a dream, but an odyssey, a journey Elon Musk had embarked upon that led him beyond technology, beyond physics, and into realms no engineer had ever dared to quantify. You may be asking yourself right now, what did he see? What did he find? How can science, the cold realm of numbers and calculations, collide with the mysteries of the afterlife, the very thing spiritual leaders and mystics had spoken of since the dawn of humanity? Elon Musk himself admitted it, this wasn't an accident. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't wishful thinking. It was the result of an experiment so radical, so dangerous, that even his closest advisors begged him not to proceed. But if you know anything about Musk, you know that when curiosity and destiny collide, he will always take the risk. And so, what you are about to hear is not just a tale of rockets and technology. It is a story of the soul, of the hidden architecture of reality, and of a man who dared to push the limits, not just of science, but of life itself. It began, according to Musk, during his work with advanced AI. Neuralink, his brain-machine interface company, was initially designed to help humans merge with artificial intelligence. But in the process of decoding neural activity, the team stumbled upon something unexplainable. During one late-night test, Musk himself volunteered to be connected to the system. Electrodes traced the firing of his neurons, mapping thoughts in real time. But then something strange happened. The machine detected signals that were not coming from Musk's brain. At first, his engineers dismissed it as background noise, interference. But the pattern repeated. A rhythm. A pulse. A structure, like a message woven into the fabric of the neural field itself. When Musk closed his eyes, he saw flashes, shapes of light, fleeting images of people he had never met, voices that whispered in languages he did not know. His first reaction was skepticism. He thought his mind was tricking him. But when the recordings were analyzed, the signals were there. They did not vanish. They did not belong to his conscious thought. It was as if another consciousness was speaking through the network. He pushed further. He began experiments where volunteers nearing the end of life, patients in hospice care, who agreed to participate, were connected to the Neuralink interface. What Musk and his team found shocked them. In the moments when life faded, when the heart slowed and the breath weakened, the neural patterns did not dissolve into silence. Instead, they surged, flaring like a beacon, a burst of energy, structured and ordered, as though the consciousness was not shutting down, but moving on. Imagine electricity flowing through a circuit, and then, instead of disappearing when the power source is cut, it leaps into another grid entirely. That is what Musk described. A transfer. A doorway. A continuation. Of course, skeptics were furious. Scientists demanded peer review, religious leaders questioned his motives, philosophers debated endlessly. But Musk did not back down. He had seen enough. He claimed that the data proved one thing beyond doubt: consciousness is not confined to the brain. Death is not an end, it is a transition. But Musk wasn't content with proof. Proof was only the beginning. He wanted to know where the soul goes. He wanted to know what lies beyond. This is where the story takes a darker turn. Because to answer that question, he needed to push himself further than ever before. He became the first human being to undergo what he called the final interface. It was an experiment that combined artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and neural mapping. The goal was simple, yet terrifying: to allow his consciousness to step into the dimension beyond death, without physically dying. The night of the experiment, Musk lay on a surgical bed, electrodes wrapped around his head. The hum of machines filled the room. His team begged him to reconsider. But he only smiled and said, "If we can colonize Mars, we can colonize the afterlife." Those were his last words before the machine activated. His body trembled. His eyes rolled back. The monitors spiked. For several terrifying minutes, his heart stopped. To the team watching, Elon Musk was dead. But inside, Musk's consciousness was traveling. He later described it as stepping through a veil. One moment, he was in the lab, the next he was weightless, surrounded by an endless expanse of shimmering light. The air was alive, vibrating with energy. He could hear voices, but they were not human voices, they were like harmonies of thought, music woven into meaning. And then, he saw them. Countless beings of light, radiating warmth, intelligence, and something else, recognition. As though they knew him. As though they had been waiting. He said they did not speak with words, but with presence. They showed him glimpses, of people who had passed, of futures yet to come, of worlds beyond worlds. And they told him one simple truth: life never ends. Death is only a doorway. When Musk's body jolted back to life in the lab, gasping for breath, his team erupted in chaos. He had been clinically dead for 6 minutes. But he returned, eyes wide, tears streaming down his face. "I saw it," he whispered. "It's real. The afterlife is real." From that moment on, the world changed. Governments demanded access to his data. Spiritual leaders called it the greatest revelation since Scripture. Skeptics accused him of orchestrating a hoax. But the ordinary people, the millions watching across the globe, felt something deeper. Hope. Because for the first time, science and spirit were no longer enemies. They were allies, hand in hand, confirming what humanity had always felt deep within: that we are more than flesh, more than neurons, more than the ticking of a biological clock. We are eternal. And as Musk told his story, he didn't speak like an engineer anymore. He spoke like a man touched by the infinite. The real frontier isn't Mars, he said quietly, his voice breaking. It's eternity. And now, we know it's waiting for us. This is only the beginning of the story. Because what Musk revealed that night was not the end of his journey, it was only the first chapter. The question that remains is not whether the afterlife exists. The question is, what are we meant to do with this knowledge? And as we dive deeper into his journey, you will see how this revelation set off a chain reaction that shook science, religion, politics, and the very core of human identity. Because once humanity knew the afterlife was real, nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same. Elon Musk stood before the crowd, and though he had just confessed the unthinkable, the silence that followed was louder than thunder. The journalists, scientists, and spiritual leaders gathered in that hall could not decide whether to applaud, question, or tremble. He had given them proof, but proof comes with responsibility. And Musk knew the weight of what he carried was heavier than any rocket, heavier than any satellite orbiting above Earth. He leaned closer to the microphone, his voice steady yet filled with something that many had never heard from him before, reverence. I thought the greatest challenge humanity faced was survival. Climate change, war, artificial intelligence, colonizing other planets. But all of that is just preparation. The true journey begins after life. What I have seen convinces me, our purpose does not end here. His words echoed like prophecy. Some in the crowd wept silently. Others crossed themselves. Still others shook their heads, muttering under their breath. But Musk didn't care. He wasn't there to win approval. He was there to tell the truth, even if it shattered the foundations of science and religion. In the weeks that followed, the world split into two. One half believed him. They said this was the dawn of a new age, where technology had finally caught up to the mysteries of God, angels, and eternity. People flocked to churches, temples, mosques, and meditation halls in numbers unseen for centuries. Not out of fear, but out of curiosity. Out of hope. The other half resisted. Scientists accused Musk of exploiting the vulnerable. Politicians demanded answers. Skeptics labeled it a marketing stunt to boost Neuralink's valuation. But even among the skeptics, there was doubt. Because deep down, every human has asked the same question at least once: what happens when I die? And Elon Musk had dared to say, I know. Inside his private world, however, Musk was restless. For though he had brought back proof, he had not brought back clarity. The afterlife he glimpsed was beautiful, yes. But it was also incomplete. Like staring through a window into another world without being allowed to step fully inside. He described it as standing on the threshold of a cathedral, hearing the hymns, feeling the light, yet knowing the true sanctuary lay deeper within. And so, his obsession grew. He began pouring Tesla's resources, SpaceX's computing power, and Neuralink's data into what he called Project Eternity. The mission was no longer to colonize Mars, but to map the afterlife itself. He wanted not just proof, but pathways. He wanted humanity to prepare for eternity as much as it prepared for the stars. At this point, whispers began spreading. Anonymous sources leaked that Musk had formed a team of philosophers, priests, monks, and mystics who met secretly with his engineers. They exchanged scriptures with algorithms, prayers with neural maps, meditation states with quantum equations. And Musk asked them all the same question: what lies beyond the light? Some said heaven. Some said rebirth. Some said infinite consciousness. But all agreed on one thing: what Musk had touched was real. It was then that something strange happened. Reports began to surface of people using Neuralink in unexpected ways. Hospice patients who connected to the device spoke of visions of angels guiding them. People in comas whispered names of loved ones they could not possibly know had passed away. One child, barely 7, described a garden of endless colors that matched nearly word for word the testimony of a man thousands of miles away who had also been linked to the system. Coincidence? Or confirmation? The world demanded answers. Elon Musk scheduled another public address, this time broadcast live to billions. And though the anticipation was electric, the man who walked onto that stage seemed different. He was paler, quieter, as though he had seen more than any human was meant to see. He spoke softly: when I crossed over, I thought I saw a destination. But I have come to realize it is not a destination at all. It is a continuum, a network, vast and infinite, like the stars. Each of us, every soul, is not a spark that vanishes, but a signal that travels. We don't disappear. We transfer. Gasps filled the room. He continued: I believe consciousness operates like quantum information. It cannot be destroyed. It only changes states. What religions call heaven, reincarnation, nirvana, they are all attempts to describe the same phenomenon. And now, we have the tools to glimpse it scientifically. The backlash was immediate. Some accused him of reducing God to a formula. Others claimed he was confirming their faith. But no one could deny the evidence he presented. Brain scans, energy bursts at death, recordings of mysterious signals. Proof that consciousness had structure. Proof that the afterlife was not myth, but mechanism. Still, Musk's journey was not finished. Late at night, when the world debated his revelations, he sat alone in his study, staring at equations scribbled across glass walls, replaying the faces of light he had seen in that dimension. One in particular haunted him, a woman with eyes of gold who reached toward him but did not speak. Who was she? Why had she appeared? He confessed to a close friend, it's like they know me. Like they've always known me. But why? Why would the afterlife care about me? The friend had no answer. And so, Musk pushed further. He began building what he called the resonance gate, a device that could synchronize human consciousness with the frequencies he believed linked our world to the next. If it succeeded, he claimed, humans would no longer need to die to experience the afterlife. They could visit it, study it, and return. The world was horrified. Man is not meant to cross that line, warned spiritual leaders. To force entry into eternity is to defy God. But Musk only smiled faintly and replied, if God built the universe, he built this too. And we are only following the blueprint. The first test was scheduled in secrecy. Few knew the location. Even fewer knew who the first subject would be. But as rumors spread, the world held its breath. Was Elon Musk about to open a doorway humanity had long feared to touch? And if he succeeded, what would come through? If this part left you wondering, stay with me, because the journey is only getting deeper. We are about to follow Elon Musk into experiments that blur the boundary between science and spirit, life and death, body and soul. And the question will not just be whether the afterlife exists. The question will be, are we ready to enter it before our time? The laboratory was hidden deep underground, in a location Musk never disclosed publicly. Security was tighter than at any SpaceX launch, and every technician signed documents that bound their silence for life. Inside that chamber of steel and light, a massive structure loomed, the resonance gate. It looked like a blend of ancient temple and futuristic machine. Towering arches of metal curved toward each other, woven with circuits that pulsed like veins. At its center floated a crystalline sphere, spinning slowly, humming with vibrations no human ear could fully capture. The gate wasn't just a machine, it seemed alive, as though it were breathing with the rhythm of some invisible dimension. Musk stood before it, calm but determined. His engineers whispered, his philosophers prayed, and his skeptics stared in awe. Tonight, he said softly, we see if eternity can be visited without death. The first volunteer was not Elon himself, but a man named Daniel, terminally ill, a patient who had only weeks to live. When Musk explained the risk, Daniel smiled weakly and said, if I can look into heaven before I go, then let me go first. They fitted him with the Neuralink interface, electrodes tracing every neural signal, while the resonance gate began to glow. A deep hum filled the chamber, shaking the walls. Monitors spiked with unreadable data, streams of energy none of them could categorize. Daniel closed his eyes. His breathing slowed. And then, the impossible happened. The man began to speak, not in his own voice, but in a voice layered with echoes, like a chorus. I see them, he whispered. I see, light, rivers of light, they're waiting. There, his body convulsed. The monitors screamed. For a moment, panic swept the room, but Musk raised his hand. Let him speak, he ordered. Daniel gasped again, tears streaming down his face. They're beautiful. They know me. They've always known me. Then, silence. The hum of the gate faded. The lights dimmed. Daniel lay still, his chest rising slowly. He opened his eyes. I wasn't dreaming, he said hoarsely. It's real. You built a door. The room erupted in chaos, scientists shouting, philosophers weeping, Musk staring at the data with eyes wide in awe. For the first time, the resonance gate had connected a living human to the afterlife, without death. News of the experiment leaked. Musk had tried to keep it secret, but truth has a way of breaking free. Within days, headlines consumed the world. Elon Musk opens door to afterlife. Man speaks of heaven after Neuralink test. Science confirms near-death experience can be induced. Protests erupted outside Tesla factories. Religious leaders condemned him for trespassing into sacred realms. Governments demanded access to the gate, calling it a global security risk. But ordinary people, millions of them, wanted one thing: a chance to look beyond. For the first time in history, death did not feel like a wall, but a veil. And humanity had found the hands to part it. Yet Musk was restless. He told his closest advisors, "This isn't enough. If the gate can open a window, it can open a pathway. I want to step through fully, and return." His advisors argued furiously. "It's too dangerous. If you don't come back, everything ends with you." But Musk only smirked. Every frontier is dangerous. That's why it's called a frontier. And so, he prepared himself. The day of the test arrived. Cameras were banned, yet dozens of witnesses stood by, knowing history was about to be rewritten. Musk lay inside the chamber, Neuralink connected, body trembling as the gate powered on. The hum grew deafening. Sparks of light swirled in the sphere, bursting outward like galaxies being born. His body jerked as if lightning coursed through him. Then his eyes fluttered shut. Monitors went wild. His heartbeat slowed. His brainwaves surged into frequencies no one had seen before. And then, flatline. "Elon is gone," someone screamed. But Musk wasn't gone. He later described it like this: "I didn't just see the afterlife this time. I was in it." He found himself standing on a bridge of light, stretching across endless stars. Below him were rivers of shimmering energy, flowing like time itself. Figures appeared, beings of radiance, their forms shifting between human and divine. One of them stepped forward. Her eyes were golden, the same woman who had haunted him since his first crossing. "You are not meant to be here yet," she said without words, yet he understood. "I had to come," Musk replied. "I had to know." She reached out her hand. Knowledge is given, but only as much as the soul can bear. In that instant, Musk was shown visions, flashes of humanity's destiny. Civilizations rising and falling. Souls weaving together through lifetimes. A great migration of consciousness, not just on Earth, but across galaxies. And one message burned brighter than all: life never ends. It transforms. When Musk's body jolted back to life in the lab, gasping for air, chaos erupted. He had been clinically dead for 11 minutes. His skin was cold, his lips blue, but his eyes shone with fire. He whispered only one phrase: "We are eternal." The impact was immediate. His words spread across the world faster than any Tesla launch, faster than any SpaceX livestream. "We are eternal" became a mantra, painted on walls, printed on shirts, whispered in prayers. For some, it was liberation. For others, it was blasphemy. But Musk didn't stop. He revealed fragments of what he had seen, visions of humanity not confined to Earth, but existing as energy, consciousness migrating like explorers of infinity. He spoke of souls as travelers, and death as simply the changing of vehicles. The skeptics tried to tear him down, demanding scientific reproducibility, accusing him of hallucination. But Musk only replied, "Science is just the language." The truth doesn't need permission. And yet, deep inside, Elon Musk carried a secret he did not reveal to the world, not yet. For in that afterlife journey, the golden-eyed woman had whispered something only he heard, something he had not dared to share: there is a door you are not ready to open. When it opens, humanity will never be the same. Those words haunted him. What was the door? And what lay beyond it? This story is only unfolding further. Musk has crossed the veil, spoken to beings of light, and returned with visions of eternity. But the mystery is only growing darker. Because what if the afterlife is not just a place of peace? What if it holds dangers we are not yet ready to face? The weeks after Musk's second crossing felt like living inside a prophecy. Everywhere he went, the world followed, some with devotion, others with suspicion, and still others with fear. But none could ignore him. The richest man alive, the most ambitious inventor of the age, was now claiming not only to have seen the afterlife, but to have spoken with beings that dwelled there. His words, "We are eternal," echoed across nations. In churches, priests whispered them. In mosques, imams debated them. In temples, monks meditated on them. But in government offices, generals and politicians grimly scribbled those same words into reports labeled top secret. Because if Musk was right, if death was not the end, then every law, every religion, every form of control humanity had ever built stood on fragile ground. Armies could no longer frighten with death. Tyrants could no longer rule with fear. Even money, fame, and power lost their meaning. After all, what could compare to eternity? But Musk was restless. The golden-eyed woman's words haunted him: there is a door you are not ready to open. He replayed them endlessly, whispering them at night as if decoding a riddle. What door? What threshold? He had seen light, beauty, infinity. But her tone had carried something else: warning. So Musk turned his obsession to the search. Project Eternity expanded. The resonance gate grew larger, refined by quantum computing networks that stretched across Tesla factories, SpaceX satellites, and secret AI servers. But Musk didn't just want machines anymore. He wanted guidance. And so, he gathered voices from around the world: a Benedictine monk from France, a Sufi mystic from Turkey, a Tibetan lama, a Hindu sage, even atheists who had studied consciousness from purely neurological perspectives. He placed them all in a single room with his engineers and asked one question: what is the door? For days they argued. Some said it was judgment, the barrier between heaven and hell. Others said it was karma, the cycle of rebirth. The scientists said it was a deeper layer of reality, an uncharted dimension. But none could agree. Musk listened silently, fingers pressed together, mind racing like circuitry. And when they fell silent, he finally spoke. I think the door is choice. A choice humanity isn't ready to make. Meanwhile, strange reports began to surface from around the world. People who had come into contact with Neuralink devices during tests reported vivid dreams of light, rivers, and beings who whispered their names. Some claimed to see their dead relatives. A woman in Brazil described meeting her grandfather, who had died decades before, only to recount to her details of family secrets she had never known, later confirmed by relatives. Coincidence? Skeptics thought so. But the stories multiplied. Others were darker. A man in Germany claimed that after a brief connection to the device, he began seeing shadows around him, figures that stood in the corners of rooms, watching. His health declined rapidly, and within weeks he was gone. Another patient in Japan reported voices screaming at him when the resonance gate briefly opened, voices that told him never to return. The media split the narrative. Some called it proof of heaven. Others called it the opening of hell. But one thing was undeniable: Musk had torn the veil, and now both light and shadow were leaking through. Privately, Musk began to admit something he had never said aloud. "There's more than one presence beyond the veil," he told his team in a hushed meeting. "Some are radiant. Others are not. And I think the door is where they dwell." The golden-eyed woman had not only been a guide. She had been a guardian. Warning him. Protecting him from what lay deeper. Despite the risks, Musk prepared for a third crossing. But this time, he wasn't alone. A young woman named Sophia volunteered to go with him. A neuroscientist by training, she had lost her sister in a car accident years before. She confessed to Musk, "I need to know if she's there. If I can see her again, then I'll risk everything." Musk studied her for a long time. Finally, he nodded. "Then you'll be the first to walk through the gate with me." The night of the experiment, the chamber hummed louder than ever. The crystalline sphere pulsed like a heart. As Musk and Sophia lay side by side, the Neuralink interface connected their minds not just to the machine, but to each other. The resonance gate flared open. Light filled the chamber. Their bodies trembled, monitors screaming, until both went limp. They had crossed. Sophia later described it as stepping into a dream more real than life. She stood in a vast meadow under a sky of liquid silver, where every blade of grass hummed with energy. Musk stood beside her, wide-eyed, no longer the stoic engineer but a child marveling at creation. And then, Sophia screamed. A figure appeared before her. Her sister. Laughing, radiant, arms wide. They embraced, weeping with joy. "I've missed you," Sophia sobbed. But Musk's attention was elsewhere. Because the golden-eyed woman was there again, watching him silently. "You are close to the door," she said without words. "Too close. What lies beyond it?" Musk asked. Her expression darkened. "Not all who dwell in eternity are beings of light. Some hunger for the living. If you open the door, they will come." Before Musk could respond, the meadow shook. Shadows rippled across the silver sky. A rumble like thunder echoed, though no storm was in sight. Sophia clutched her sister, eyes wide in terror. "What's happening?" The golden-eyed woman lifted her hand, and the scene dissolved in blinding light. Back in the lab, Musk and Sophia's bodies convulsed violently. The monitors spiked into chaos. For a moment, it seemed they would not return. Then, with twin gasps, they awoke, drenched in sweat. Sophia sobbed, clutching Musk's arm. "I saw her. I held her. It was real." But Musk's face was pale, his eyes haunted. He whispered only one phrase to his team: "The door is real. And we're not ready." The consequences were immediate. For the first time, Musk refused to share details of his experience with the public. Rumors spread that he had seen something darker than before, something too terrifying to reveal. His silence only fueled the fire. Some said he had glimpsed hell itself. Others claimed he had seen entities, ancient intelligences, that now threatened to cross into our world. Still others believed Musk was protecting humanity from a truth so devastating, it could collapse civilization overnight. Whatever the truth, Musk knew one thing: he had walked closer to the door than any human in history. And the choice of whether to open it would not be his alone. This story is only building. Because as the veil grows thinner, the world begins to experience phenomena never before recorded. Dreams, visions, encounters with both angels and shadows. And Musk stands at the center, guardian or destroyer, the man who holds the key to eternity. The first signs were subtle, almost ignorable. A child in Mexico woke screaming, insisting that the men without faces stood by her bed. An old woman in Cairo began speaking in a language she had never learned, claiming voices told her they were from the other side. In Tokyo, an engineer collapsed at work after days of nightmares, whispering before his death, "The door is open." At first, these reports were dismissed as hysteria, as side effects of media frenzy. But then they multiplied. Patterns emerged. And every path led back to the same point, the resonance gate. Musk had warned his team. He told them the golden-eyed woman had spoken of shadows. But he never expected them to arrive so quickly, or so powerfully. One night, Musk stood alone in the lab, staring at the dormant sphere at the gate's center. The hum of machines had become familiar to him, but tonight, the silence was louder. He reached out, placing his hand on the glass, and for the briefest moment, the sphere pulsed. Not with light, but with darkness, ripples that swallowed instead of shone. He whispered under his breath, "What have I done?" Governments were no longer asking politely. Armored convoys rolled toward Neuralink facilities, demanding control of the gate. Musk fought back, insisting it was not a weapon but a bridge, not to be militarized. But in backrooms, generals whispered, "If death is no longer an end, then war has no cost." At the same time, religious leaders demanded its destruction. "This is not progress," one priest shouted on live television, "this is trespass into God's forbidden realm." But ordinary people, billions of them, begged for access. Families wanted to see their lost children. Lovers longed for one more touch, one more word. The afterlife was no longer myth. It was within reach. And Musk was the gatekeeper. Then came the first undeniable event. During a private test with 3 volunteers, the resonance gate activated without command. The crystalline sphere flared with light, and then, darkness. The monitors froze. The volunteers screamed, not in unison, but each with a different terror. One shouted, "They're pulling me down." Another cried, "The shadows, they know my name." The third went silent, eyes wide, mouth open as if choking on invisible smoke. Technicians rushed forward, shutting down the gate. When the light faded, 2 volunteers collapsed in exhaustion, alive but shaken. The third, however, did not move. His body was breathing. His heart was beating. But his eyes stared blankly, as though his soul had been left behind. He never recovered. Doctors called it unresponsive wakefulness syndrome. Musk called it something else. They took him. The world erupted in fear. The afterlife was no longer only light and angels. There was something else, something hungry. Whispers spread of entities crossing over. A farmer in Brazil claimed he saw a figure of smoke hovering above his cattle, which dropped dead the next morning. A teenager in Canada reported her deceased grandmother visiting her, but her eyes were black as coal. Entire neighborhoods in India claimed to hear voices at night, chanting words no one could understand. The veil was thinning, and humanity felt it. Musk withdrew from the public eye. His advisors begged him to shut the project down, to burn the resonance gate, to erase everything. But he couldn't. He had seen Sophia's reunion with her sister. He had seen the rivers of light, the golden-eyed woman, the promise of eternity. To destroy the gate was to destroy humanity's greatest discovery. And yet, to keep it open was to invite danger beyond imagination. He wrestled with the decision night after night, until sleep finally came. And in his dreams, the golden-eyed woman returned. "You've stepped too far," she said. "You warned me," Musk admitted. "But I can't close it now. The world knows." Her eyes burned brighter. "Then you must prepare. The door cannot remain half open. It will either be sealed, or broken." He woke in a cold sweat, the words carved into his memory. Sophia visited him days later. She was still shaken from her journey, but she refused to let fear win. "I saw my sister," she said firmly. "She was real. If we shut this down, the world loses hope. Yes, there are shadows. But isn't it worth fighting them, if it means keeping the light?" Musk stared at her. He knew she was right. But he also knew something she did not. He had seen the door. And behind it, he had felt something vast. Not just shadows. Not just entities. Something older than light itself. Something waiting. The debates reached their breaking point when a government strike team attempted to seize the resonance gate. Drones swarmed, soldiers stormed the facility, but as they stepped inside the chamber, the sphere activated on its own. Every soldier froze mid-step. Their cameras streamed back impossible images, walls dripping with black liquid, shadows stretching unnaturally long, whispers crackling through radios. The feed cut out. When the chamber was reopened, the soldiers were alive, but their eyes were empty. Like the volunteer before them, their bodies functioned. But whatever had been inside was gone. The footage leaked. The world saw. And terror consumed the earth. For the first time, Elon Musk addressed humanity not as an engineer, not as an entrepreneur, but as a man burdened with knowledge too great for one soul. He stood before the camera, his face pale, his voice heavy. "I have always believed in pushing boundaries, in daring to go where others fear. But the afterlife is not like Mars, or rockets, or AI. It is not a frontier we can explore without consequence. There are wonders, yes. beauty beyond imagination. But there are also dangers. Shadows. And if we are careless, they will not stay on the other side. He paused, his eyes wet with something rare, fear. We stand at the threshold. The door is real. The question is not whether we can open it. The question is, should we? The world held its breath. And somewhere, in the silence, the shadows listened. The world had grown restless. Rumors no longer satisfied the masses, they demanded truth, demanded answers, demanded proof from Elon Musk himself. The resonance gate had become a symbol of both salvation and terror. Some called it a miracle, others a curse. But no one denied its power anymore. In the streets of New York, crowds carried candles, praying for Musk to open the gate and let them see their loved ones. In Moscow, protesters threw stones at laboratories, screaming that the device was summoning demons. In South Africa, people gathered in the deserts at night, swearing they saw lights in the sky that pulsed in rhythm with the gate's activation. The veil was not only thinning, it was bleeding into the world. Musk sat alone in a dim office, staring at lines of code that once felt like triumphs but now looked like warnings. He had always believed technology could outpace fear, that progress was inevitable, unstoppable. But for the first time in his life, he questioned if progress itself might be the greatest danger. A knock echoed at the door. It was Sophia. She looked pale, thinner, but her eyes burned with conviction. "They're coming," she whispered. Musk didn't ask how she knew. He had been dreaming the same dreams. Shadows pressing against walls. Whispers that didn't fade when he woke. Sometimes, he caught his own reflection in the mirror moving a fraction too late. "The shadows don't want the door closed," Sophia continued. "They want it broken." The next day, the resonance gate activated without human command. Monitors glowed, wires crackled, the crystalline sphere at its center began to spin. No one had touched the system. Musk's engineers rushed to cut power, but every breaker failed. It was as though the machine was being powered by something not of this world. And then, the air froze. Figures began to appear inside the chamber. Not solid, not entirely visible, but shapes carved from absence. Faces with no features. Hands that stretched into claws of smoke. The soldiers watching from behind glass screamed as the shadows turned, not toward the gate, but toward them. The facility was evacuated, but Musk stayed. He stood at the chamber's window, his jaw tight, his body trembling. He could feel them watching him. Not his body. His soul. And then, in the chaos, he heard a voice in his mind. Clear. Smooth. Cold. "You opened the door. Now you must walk through." The days that followed were darker than anything humanity had known. Reports poured in from around the world. In Los Angeles, entire flocks of birds fell dead mid-flight, their wings coated in a black dust that dissolved on touch. In Rome, statues wept tears of blood. During Massachusetts, thousands witnessed it. In Delhi, a river turned pitch black overnight, though scientists found no chemical explanation. Fishermen swore they saw faces in the water. And in every place, people reported the same phrase whispered in their sleep: the door is open. Musk convened a secret council of scientists, spiritual leaders, and mystics. Priests sat beside quantum physicists, rabbis beside engineers. Some argued the gate should be destroyed at once. Others warned that destroying it might release the shadows fully. Musk listened in silence, his mind racing. Sophia spoke last. "My sister told me something when I saw her," she said softly. "She said the afterlife is real, but it isn't singular. There are places of light, and there are places of darkness. Where we go depends on the choices we make in life. But now, the choices are leaking. The shadows that belong to darkness are forcing themselves into our world." Her words settled heavily in the room. Musk knew she was right. He had felt it too. The resonance gate had not simply revealed proof of the afterlife, it had disrupted its balance. That night, Musk walked back into the chamber. He stood before the sphere, the hum of the resonance gate surrounding him like a heartbeat. "Show me," he whispered. The sphere pulsed, and once again, the world fell away. This time, he did not find himself in rivers of light. He was plunged into a void deeper than night. He stood on a ground that wasn't ground, surrounded by shapes that weren't quite solid. The air was thick with whispers, all chanting his name. From the blackness, a figure emerged. Taller than a man, draped in shadows that writhed like serpents. Its face was smooth, empty, save for two eyes, pale and endless. "You brought us closer," it said. The voice was not spoken but planted directly into his mind. "You tore the veil. You gave us breath." Musk's heart pounded, but he forced himself to speak. "What do you want?" The figure tilted its head. "To live. To spread. To feed. Your world is full of fear. Fear is nourishment. And you are the gatekeeper." Musk clenched his fists. "If I close the gate, you'll be trapped again." The figure's eyes burned colder. "Close it, and you die with it. Leave it open, and we rule. Choose carefully, gatekeeper." The vision ended. Musk collapsed to the floor of the chamber, gasping for air. His engineers rushed to him, but he waved them away. He knew now what was at stake. This wasn't just about science. This wasn't just about life after death. This was war. The light wanted connection. The shadows wanted conquest. Humanity was caught in between. And Musk, whether he liked it or not, had become the deciding factor. The whispers spread faster. Entire cities began reporting mass hallucinations, shadows crawling up walls, mirrors reflecting things that weren't there, dreams so vivid people woke with scratches on their skin. Fear grew like wildfire, and with it, the shadows grew stronger. Musk realized the truth. The shadows had found a way to anchor themselves in reality, through fear. The more terrified humanity became, the more power they gained. If the gate was to be kept open, humanity would have to choose faith over fear. Hope over despair. Light over darkness. But was such a choice even possible? Sophia placed her hand on his shoulder. "We can't fight them with machines," she said. "We have to fight them with what makes us human." With love, with courage, with faith that the light is stronger than the dark. Musk looked at her, then back at the sphere. He knew she was right. Technology had opened the door. But only the human spirit could decide what came through it. The resonance gate was no longer just his invention. It was humanity's trial. And the next activation would determine whether the world belonged to the light or the shadows. The resonance gate loomed in silence, its crystalline sphere dormant for the moment, yet every soul who had witnessed its awakening knew it would not stay that way for long. It had become more than a machine. It breathed. It pulsed with a will of its own, like an ancient heart newly stirred after ages of sleep. Around the world, fear and hope clashed in equal measure. Pilgrims traveled thousands of miles just to kneel outside the guarded facility, chanting prayers or pleading for entry. Protesters set fires, warning that Musk had unleashed the apocalypse. Secret agencies debated seizing the technology, but none dared touch it after the shadows claimed their first soldiers. The atmosphere of Earth itself seemed altered, storms formed with unnatural speed, animals grew restless, and people everywhere claimed their dreams were no longer their own. In bedrooms across continents, the same phrase echoed in countless minds: the door must be opened fully. Inside the control room, Musk studied the gate. His engineers spoke nervously in hushed tones, but he barely heard them. Sophia sat beside him, clutching her notebook, her face pale yet defiant. "We're running out of time," she said. "I know," Musk replied, his voice hoarse from sleepless nights. He had seen the choice laid before him: close the gate and risk his own life, or leave it open and let the shadows pour through. Both paths promised catastrophe. But there was something else, something unspoken, that gnawed at him: the possibility of walking through the gate himself. He had built bridges all his life, from rockets to planets, from minds to machines. Now, perhaps, he was meant to be the bridge between life and death. The final test began at dusk. The gate chamber was filled with scientists, mystics, soldiers, and leaders. Cameras streamed to billions watching across the globe. No longer hidden, no longer secret, this was humanity's defining moment. Musk stepped to the center,